Can you hear my TV?
I can.
Okay, I'll turn it down. So,
all right.
Hold on.
Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is our NFL wrap-up show for week number 17. Merry Christmas to everybody. We hope that you had a wonderful holiday. There were games of plenty that were taking place over the Christmas weekend, and 3 of them were on actual Christmas Day. So a lot to talk about, along with Brian LeBel, our NFL analyst and NCAA analyst, and Joey Clinkscales, former general manager, former personnel director, former scout, and also former player in the National Football League. Welcome, both of you. Joey, I'll start with you. First of all, Merry Christmas to you and your family. It's a shame that there wasn't any football. Just like on Thanksgiving, the NFL has kind of taken over here on the Christmas Day games as well. As Brian said last week, that used to be an NBA only, and now the NFL has said, we're here to play, and the ratings were terrific.
Well, the NFL found out that there was a lot of money to be made now that you have games on Amazon and Prime and Peacock. So guess what? It's a lot of money to be made. New money that wasn't there 10, 12 years ago. So guess what? They are capitalizing at every turn.
They certainly are. And Brian, you were the one to point this out. I remember when the previous NBA champions, let's say it was the Lakers or the Celtics, or if it was San Antonio or Houston, they would always get a Christmas Day game. And it was almost as if, just like the Daytona 500, it was a way to inaugurate the NBA season for the fans that have been watching for the past 2 months. Yeah, no big deal. Nobody's watching in November or October. Now the games are important, and everything from here on out has either division or conference play significance. NFL said, by the way, we're here, we're knocking on the door, and we're going to try to take over. They did a great job.
Yeah, unfortunately, the choices for the games weren't too strong. I think they thought they'd be the teams would be a little bit better, at this juncture. The Chiefs being what they are was, kind of a, out of left field. The Commanders obviously were a good half of football away from the Super Bowl last year. They kind of fell off, and then the Lions too, their downfall. But yeah, I got to be honest, I watched more football than I did basketball still, and I think they got basketball for I think it's on for almost 12 full hours. I think they got from noon until 12:30 or 1 in the morning. So yeah, it's if you like sports, if you like basketball or football, Christmas has become the day where you can get your fix on just about anything.
Yeah, forget the gifts and eating well and seeing family. There's a lot of games to watch. What I thought was interesting is that the Thanksgiving reversal, the exact opposite, where Lions have had the home first game forever. They're on the road in the second game. Cowboys are always at home in the second game. They're on the road in the first game. And then Kansas City, who has been at home for numerous games, but they get to host another one. There's still the last game, obviously, the quote unquote, the West game or the late arriving game. But we'll talk about all 3 of those. First and foremost, guys, let's just go into where we are right now, presently in the Monday Night Football game. I'm showing just under 10 minutes left to go. Atlanta is at home. They're ahead of the LA Rams. The 6-9 Falcons are ahead 24-17. The 11-4 Rams. Joey, if you don't mind me saying so, just a atypical West Coast team coming out to the East Coast. It doesn't matter if it's night game. They fall asleep in the first half and they turn it on in the third quarter. The Rams have certainly done that. 17 points in the third quarter to get them right back in it. They're 1 score away.
Well, the Rams were certainly playing uninspired football the first half for sure. Matthew Stafford threw some interceptions. And at the end of the day, it was crazy how, some of that kind of changed. And then you had a blocked field goal that was returned for a touchdown. So it was really interesting, the span in which the game was almost out of hand with the Falcons taking advantage of it. And now the Rams are back in the game.
Yeah, and Brian, the Falcons, losers of 5 in a row in the middle of the season, and 7 of 8 during one stretch. Otherwise, they got a chance to be playing for the division. Obviously, that's not the case. They've already lost 9 games. They could lose a 10th. Who knows what's going to happen in this one? The Rams have certainly turned it on here in the second half. But the Falcons getting a home late Monday night game, certainly the expectations were high earlier in the season, of course, to schedule a game like this, which should have been on paper a real good matchup.
2 very good defenses, right? And, fortunately for the Rams, defense travels. It's their defensive special teams that kind of kept them in this one because Stafford's playing one of the worst games he's played in a while. I don't know if they're doing something out there schematic-wise where they're kind of catching him off guard, or maybe there's something on tape that they thought they had, and it hasn't been the case. Puka Nakua's kind of been kept in check, and This has kind of become a defensive slugfest. A lot of turnovers, a lot of sloppy play, just back and forth. And I mean, kudos to the Rams though, sticking in it. Right, they're on the road in a tough environment. Monday Night Football. They're down a bunch. They're down 21-0 at the half, and they've battled their way back. I think they got the ball chance to go try to tie it, but they're a really good football team. That's what they do. Shout out Bijan Robinson though, man. He's probably the best player on the field right now. He's watching him run is. I feel like every time he jump cuts, he's going to hurt his knee. I'm hoping he does it, but it's just what he's been able to do this year. I think he's approaching. I mean, he's probably going to get close to 2,500 scrimmage yards. I mean, it's insane what he's doing with the Falcons right now. 19
carries, 176 yards, and a touchdown for Bijan with still 7.5 minutes left to go in this one. We'll keep tabs on it, but we're also going to look at some of the other games that took place earlier this week. There were some that we had a preview on earlier in the week. Usually on Tuesday nights, you can watch that show with Joey and Brian, myself. But this time, the first game that we're going to start with is the early Christmas Day game. This is on Thursday. The Commanders at home end up fumbling this one away literally and figuratively. 30-23 is the final. 7-8-1 Cowboys go into Washington. They end up pulling out a win there. I know there's no significance. The division has already been won by the Eagles, but this used to be a great matchup, Joey.
Of course it is. It's a divisional game, and two teams that really dislike each other, like all the teams in that division. But it was interesting from the standpoint. The Commanders fought this whole game. I was surprised the energy they came out with, despite some of the turnovers they had and how sloppy this game was at certain points in time. And the Commanders ended up playing with the third quarterback, Josh Johnson. And you thought this game was going to be a blowout, but it ended up being a one-score game. Dak played pretty good football. They were able to run the ball pretty well. But guess what? The Achilles heel that the Cowboys have had most of the year was evident in this game as well. They weren't able to stop the run for the most part. There were holes all over the field, and they didn't make Josh Johnson look like he was a third string quarterback. They made him look like maybe he was a backup. I mean, because he was pretty efficient despite not throwing any touchdowns. He did some really good things. So this was an interesting game, and divisional games are always, especially at the end of the year, because one team is playing for pride and the other team is probably going to the playoffs. This year, both of these teams will be home, but it's a really interesting game.
Dak throws for over 300 yards, Brian. He's got 2 touchdowns. Malik Davis rushes for over 100, and I think he had 103 yards total. He wasn't the leading rusher in the game, but that's something that the Cowboys have been looking for all year, so a consistent running game.
Yeah, they got pretty good offensive line play. I mean, Javonte Williams was the guy early on, and I mean, he was a stud for them. He was kind of a very pleasant surprise for them the first month or so of the season. He kind of fell off a little bit, but with CeeDee Lamb being banged up multiple times and kind of what this offense has been, I mean, they've kind of had to reinvent themselves a couple times, kind of depending on what you're doing. Dak having to drop back 37 times and completing just barely half of those obviously isn't ideal in any situation, but it's one of those games where it's just kind of late in the year and you're not going to win the race. So you're just kind of limping to the finish line for both these guys, right? Maybe throw some guys in there that you haven't seen a lot of and see what maybe you can carry some momentum into next year, get some guys on tape. But, unfortunately for the Cowboys, higher expectations. I think we do. The Eagles be good. The Commanders kind of have more of an excuse, right? Because it's really hard to win in the NFL without your starting quarterback. And Jaden Daniels has been battling injuries all year. If you look at what's happened in Baltimore, it's the same thing. So, Two underachieving teams at the end of the year with okay performances, but shout out Josh Johnson, man. He's played for almost every NFL team. He's been around for more than a decade and thrown into the fire, and he had a decent football game.
Yeah, absolutely. And congratulations, Dallas. 30-23 is the final. They raised the record to 7-8-1, and they and the Packers are the only teams in the league that have a tie. But in a meaningless game, they played well. Next game we're going to look at, this is one we talked about just a little bit earlier. The Lions, who normally are the very first game on Thursdays for Thanksgiving, get to be the second game on the road. They end up just literally giving their chances of getting into the playoffs away. Vikings played well at home. They had their all whites, the white helmet, the white, the feather, whatever we're going to call that, the horn, white pants, everything. They kind of look what the Rams look like a little bit with that dirty white. It wasn't clean. It looked like their jerseys had been rolled around in the mud a little bit, and they washed it, kind of without soap. But 23-10 is the final. Minnesota ends up without J.J. McCarthy being the guy to lead them. Jared Goff didn't play well, and only 68 yards on the road, on the ground, on the road. Joey, you're not going to win a must-win game where you can't run. Your offensive line is kind of wreaking havoc to the rest of the offense. The Lions have really struggled in a very unique way since about week 8, week 10 this year.
Well, I'll say this. There have been very few games won when you turn the ball over 6 times. Six turnovers. They were, I think they gave up 5 sacks. And the Vikings offense was not great. I mean, they ran the ball decently, I believe. The quarterback, the quarterback at times really looked like he was a third or maybe fourth quarterback in the depth chart. But at times he looked like he belonged in high school. I mean, it was really bad. And that offensive line for the Vikings weren't great. But when you keep getting short field after short field, it's hard to lose a game when somebody gives you the ball 6 times.
3 field goals late in the game, at least in the second half. Brian, Vikings end up tying record-wise with Detroit at 8-8. I think that's quite an accomplishment for the Vikings to kind of scratch and claw their way back and maybe not finish in the cellar of the division, where Chicago and Green Bay are still leading the way right now. If they end up winning and Detroit loses, is that a moral victory for the Vikings, or is that one where you go, just lose the games and give us a couple of really good draft picks in a better position?
I mean, it's tough because this team won 13 games last year.
Yeah.
I mean, to kind of be where they were at last year and kind of have the fall off. I mean, kudos to them because I think they had 3 net passing yards. The Vikings did. They're throwing Max Brosmer out there. They're on their 3rd quarterback, right? Wentz is out. McCarthy's out. I mean, this offense was ugly. There was one play they had to Jordan Addison, and the rest of the offense was just there was nothing there. It was abysmal. So, the Lions defense showed up to play. They did their job. They did more than enough. I think they had 7 sacks. I mean, they were terrorizing everything Minnesota did offensively. But the Minnesota defense, the Brian Florence defense, man, it's tough to figure out, and it's stuff of nightmares because it just fumble after interception and everything they were doing. Lions couldn't run the ball. They couldn't pass the ball. And you could kind of tell with this. They had a couple offensive linemen leave, obviously, some retirement, some guys leaving, contractual stuff. Yep. But this is not the same offense that we had last year and the year before. These guys were at the top of the league and clicking, and this was an embarrassing outing for them in a must-win game against an under 500 team, albeit the division, but still.
Final is 23-10. Minnesota ends up with a road victory and also a tie, if you want to call it that. They're 8-8. They raise their record to 8-8, and the Lions fall to 8-8 with 1 game left to go. Next game we're going to look at, Broncos go on the road to Kansas City. Normally this would be one of those games you go, man, this is going to be a barn burner. It wasn't necessarily a barn burner, but the Chiefs really struggled. They lose at home. 20-13 is the final here. Broncos are 13-3. Another one of those ho-hum victories, Joey, if you ask me. Bo Nix throws for 182 yards. He's got a touchdown. Nothing really big about it, but Kansas City's just kind of fallen apart at the seams. They had 66 yards passing and 82 yards rushing the ball. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, when he went out, so did the chances of anything happening good in Kansas City. But does that show what a disparity that there is in between when Patrick is playing and really his ability to keep that team afloat, and when he's not, they can't beat anybody? Is one guy that important?
Yes, it is. He was the one guy that, if you look at their stats throughout the season, like obviously we did, there were times during the year when he was not only the leading passer, but he was the leading rusher. Yeah, and partly that was because the offensive line did not play great at all this year, and a lot of that was because of injury, and they had some they let their center and another guy retire, and the center goes to Chicago, I believe. So they had some changes in the offensive line, but they really struggled on the offensive line. And Patrick Mahomes, when he was playing, was rarely comfortable in the pocket because you had young guys on the outside. You had Turnstile at right tackle most of the season. So now he's injured. And then the backup gets injured shortly after the game he's out. Okay, now you're on your 3rd quarterback, a kid who was on the practice squad and hadn't done a whole lot. And you wonder why they lose to the Titans last week. Now they come home and they give a valiant effort at home, but they lose to the Broncos, which was pretty much expected. But you look at the stats, they couldn't run the ball. They didn't pass the ball well enough. defensively, they played pretty good, and their defense has been up and down all year. Now, defensively, they probably played well enough to win the game, but they just didn't have enough offense to help out the defense this game.
Well, Brian, the Chiefs fall to 6-10, and instead of getting the 31st, 32nd, the 30th pick, somewhere in that late 20s or on, this year they could be 12, 14, somewhere in that. Is that going to make a difference for them from a draft perspective, that they're going to get a chance to get a much better, higher quality player, or the first in line at a position as opposed to the second or the third?
I think this team, and you can kind of see it this year, it's a little more exposed, is they're lacking depth at a lot of positions. Offensive line being one. Now, they had some off the field stuff and some injuries, whatever everybody does. But if you look at the receiver room, it's just not as strong as it has been in the past. And they might be shopping for a new tight end in the offseason. I don't know, Kelsey's future is up in the air. I mean, you could kind of tell he was taking a few extra moments and kind of taking it all in, because that could have been his last time at Arrowhead Stadium as a Kansas City Chief. But Joey mentioned earlier, Joe Thuney is a guy who was with Tom Brady in New England, and they were very successful. He comes to Kansas City. They win a lot of games, and now he's in Chicago with the Bears. So I think, there are certain guys that just maybe aren't necessarily high-impact guys. So they're not guys that are going to show up in the stat sheet, but having really good guard play and offensive line play, especially on the interior, is a big deal. And having a guy like him leave is kind of evident, and you can kind of see it with this Kansas City team. They're not running the ball as well. Joey mentioned it. We've talked to, there were multiple times where their leading rusher was Patrick Mahomes, and he was, 45, 50 yards at best. So they're going to have to figure something out. They're going to have to retool. They're going to have to bring in some talent. I think they still have arguably the best quarterback on the planet, but this was a rough year for the Chiefs, and one that they're probably going to be happy to forget and move on to the offseason and the draft here shortly. Well,
we're kindly giving the Chiefs a little bit of our perspective now. But don't forget, the Denver Broncos are 13-3, folks. They're 13-3. We'll talk plenty about them. They're already a playoff contender. They won the division. They clinched it. Now it's just whether they're 13-3. The Patriots are also 13-3. The Broncos right now have a better AFC record, but they're not going to play head-to-head. But it's going to be really important to see who gets the top seed. And I know Denver certainly would appreciate that 52-80 home field advantage, as opposed to having to go to Foxborough and play if there is a AFC championship in stake for both of them. But keep your eyes on the Denver Broncos. We certainly will as well. Let's look at two Saturday games. First one is the Texans. Guys, Houston has really turned it on. In my opinion, one of the hottest teams in the league. Chargers were one of the hottest teams. They're at home. You think everything's going well. It's a close game. 2016 is the final. But Houston with C.J. Stroud, his 244 yards, he has 2 touchdowns in the air, and they rush for 118 yards. They really do a job there with the Chargers. Joey, I'll start with you. Was that an L.A. loss, or was that a Houston win in terms of just who you think dominated and had a better game?
Well, I think it's a little bit of both, but I'm going to give Houston the win because their defense is, again, stellar. I mean, they are able to rush the passer, and Will Anderson was a man amongst boys the other night. So it was great to watch how defense can really control a series, because in the playoffs, that's what's going to win football games: winning the line of scrimmage and defense. Just like what Philly did last year, defense and winning the line of scrimmage. That being said, as well as C.J. Stroud played, and he had 2 touchdown passes, he also had 2 interceptions. When he got pressure in his face, I would be curious to see his stats under pressure, because I'm going to say he's not good, and that's being kind. I mean, there were times when it really bothered me to watch him under pressure, because it's like there were times where he had no idea where to go with the ball with pressure, or they didn't have a plan when pressure hit. A lot of times when a 6-man blitz was coming, they had no idea where to go with the ball. So that bothered me. And if I can see that, there are other teams that see that. So he's going to face a lot of that, especially in the playoffs. So I'm not sold right now on the way the Texans play offense consistently. I am sold on their defense. I'm just not sold on their offense.
Brian, Jesse Minter is the defensive coordinator. He came over with Harbaugh from Michigan, won a national championship, and a lot of people said, it was our defense that helped make that happen, even though the offense was good enough to score all those points. And Joey brings up a lot of great points, but Chargers kind of needed that to keep pace with the Broncos. Obviously, they're still a playoff team, but does that hurt? Does it sting a little bit more because it was a home loss, or is that, hey, it's the NFL, it's going to happen. We still got another game to play, and then we'll be on the road for our first playoff game, but we're still good enough to be there.
It's a frustrating game. I think it was the score doesn't reflect how much the Texans dominated this game, because the Chargers didn't find the end zone until the end of the third quarter. It was one of those things where if you go back and you watch it, Herbert's having to make a guy miss, and he's got he's wrapped up and he's having to do all this extra stuff. I mean, you can criticize the Chargers all you want to. It's very, very difficult. I've mentioned this a couple of times. When you lose your starting left tackle and your starting right tackle for the season, it's very hard to overcome that. And they've lost arguably two of their probably 3 or 4 best players on offense. They're still 11-5, but I mean, it's very apparent against a team like Houston, who can pin their ears back and get after the quarterback. They also couldn't run the ball. I think Omarion Hampton had he was averaging 2 yards a carry. I think he had 29 yards on the ground. We just mentioned Patrick Mahomes being the leading rusher for the Chiefs half the time, and it was the same case for the Chargers on Saturday. So a tough loss. I mean, they were in it. They fought back. Kudos to them. But this is a very good Houston team. This is a team that they could see again in the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans make a deep run, because defense travels. And, Stroud, I think, is at the point where he just needs to play well enough not to lose in the game, because the defense is good enough. They can run the ball consistently enough. They got a couple of good backs. Just go out there and try not to lose the game. I'll take 2 touchdowns. Like Joey said, it wasn't the cleanest, but it was good enough. Both these teams are good. Someone unfortunately had to lose, but going in, I think Houston, they're 11-2 in their last 13 games. I don't know if there's a team except for maybe like New England or Denver that's hotter than these guys coming into the playoffs. It's watch out for the Texans now. They're a very good football team. They play defense very, very well, and they wreak havoc on it. Is offensive coordinators and offensive linemen are going to be kind of tossing and turning the night before this game, having some nightmares, because it's tough to match up against these guys.
Well, Chargers lose 20-16 at home. Both teams have 11-5 records, and the tiebreaker now will go to the Houston Texans if they end up playing or have a positioning and roster spot that they are vying for there in the playoff standings. We'll know more next week, but certainly a big win for the Texans, and deservedly so. Let's look at the next game that we're going to talk about. That's where Baltimore goes on the road in a game where both teams must win. All I can say, Joey, is Derrick Henry, 36 carries, 216 yards. He has 4 touchdowns.
Give him the ball.
Was he at the University of Alabama going against his high school in a scrimmage? It almost looked like the guys were just basically bouncing off him. What an amazing turnout. And a guy who's right now about 30 years old, and he's running like he's 22. At least he looked like he was 22 against the Packers defense.
Well, it's amazing. At every level, Derrick Henry has been the best guy on the field. He was certainly, everybody's seen the high school tape where he was certainly a man amongst boys. Then he goes to Alabama and he wins the Heisman Trophy. He's a man amongst boys. And guess what? Now he is he's in the top 5 or 4 in the NFL all time in rushing, all time in touchdowns. So guess what? Every level he's played at, he's been one of the best, if not the best. And that goes to the point of why have the Ravens not given him the ball more, especially with Lamar Jackson being as banged up and as hurt. And at times you would see, especially not this past game, but the game before, basically the whole fourth quarter, he's standing there with a jacket on the sideline, and he had already rushed for over 100 yards then. So you're wondering what the coaching staff, what in particular the offensive coordinator, is thinking, having your best football player on the sideline and trying to just throw the ball down the field. Makes no sense. But this guy's a special player, and he gets stronger as the game goes along. He may not be great in the first quarter, but in the fourth quarter, nobody's wanting to tackle a 250-pound running back.
No,
Not a soul wants to tackle him. So it's amazing to watch him work.
There's a video out there of Nick Saban when Derek was a freshman, and Nick's doing this thing where his hands are moving all over the place, and he's doing everything that Nick Saban does, to where you go, that's exactly what Nick Saban would say, because that's what everybody's seen him do. And he says, I've got this kid, and he's a freshman, and it's Derrick Henry, and we're asking him to pass block. and he's just blowing it. Every time we bring a linebacker, he misses the guy or he doesn't hit him right. He doesn't square him up. And it's just, and so I get right on him and I go, Derek, what the hell is going on here? And he says, Coach, I never had to do any of this when I was in high school. I have no idea what you're asking me to do. And Nick started laughing and everything. And he's kind of, we got this guy who's got so much raw talent and nobody has coached him. Nobody has taught him the game. Isn't it interesting how raw, even, 13 years later, he looks just absolutely phenomenal. He doesn't look fast, but he is. He doesn't look strong, but he is. And guys just bounce off him like it's a pinball machine. And Brian, if you're a Baltimore Raven, you certainly love having this guy on your team.
Well, we're wondering why we didn't do this in the fourth quarter against New England a couple weeks ago, right? I mean, that's, that was the whole talking point. Hey, we had the game. I think he had 18 carries, 128 yards. I mean, this dude is unstoppable. It seems he's one of those rare guys where as the game goes on, he gets stronger, right? As the season goes on, he gets stronger. And he's been doing it for so long. We've been waiting for him to slow down for half a decade now. We're saying, oh, he can't keep the carries up. He can't keep the contact up. He can't keep doing this over and over again. Every year he just does it. He's in the conversation for the best running back every single year. And in a game where Jordan Love was out, Lamar Jackson was out, and you didn't know what to expect coming in. You had no idea, right? Bunch of injuries, Baltimore fighting for their playoff lives and needing some help, and fortunately for him getting it on Sunday from Cleveland. But in a game they absolutely had to have, they give the ball to their best player, Derrick Henry, and he churns out another masterpiece, just another game to put up there, kind of looking back on the trophy shelf like, oh yeah, I remember that one, but there's 2-3 dozen other ones that are just like it.
Yeah. Real quick, guys, does Malik Willis with Green Bay, did he earn a nice audition to where maybe in the offseason he goes somewhere else? He has 288 yards. He has a touchdown. What did he rush for? He had 60 yards where the team only had 79. The Packers just couldn't put the ball on the ground. If it wasn't for Malik, they would have been under 30 yards. It's just embarrassing how the Packers struggled at home. Real quick, does Malik is that a nice turnout for a guy that as a second-tier guy going against Jordan Love every day? When you finally get a chance to play, you play pretty well.
Well, I think so. It's hard to kind of say that, although he's played great every time he's had the opportunity to play in Green Bay. But sometimes for certain players, systems make those players better. So he's in the right system. He could go to another system and not quite play as well. Although if you look at what Mac Jones, has done, he leaves Miami and then he goes to San Francisco. And when he's had the opportunity to play, he's played really well. So sometimes it's the system that players in, and I think this system fits him. But who knows if he goes to another place? But he's certainly earned an opportunity to make a lot more money and hopefully be a starter somewhere.
Yeah, and Green Bay really struggles at home, Brian. They need this win, right? They absolutely needed it. They're still going to be, they're one win away from making the playoffs, but it certainly would have helped if they had been able to put the Ravens away. Ravens playing for a lot right now.
It's just. As far as the Malik thing, I'll start with that. Every chance he's had, he's been kind of thrown in the fire. He's played well enough to where, maybe not with Green Bay, if they don't bring him back, he has to have a job somewhere next year, right? There's going to be a handful of teams that are kind of unsure of the quarterback position. If you look at Kansas City, if you look at Atlanta, there are two teams that may not have their quarterback the first month of the season coming off major knee injury. So, if he's a guy you feel like you throw him in, comfortably and say, hey, let's try to be 2-2, right? Or something like that, or kind of keep us alive. I think Malik absolutely could do that. I do think he thrives in LaFleur's system, and I think, he's been there long enough to where he fully understands what it is that, they're asking of him, and he gets to watch Jordan Love do it every single day. But, it's funny how far this Green Bay team has fallen, though, as a whole, because it's just, I understand Micah Parsons is such a large impact player, right? Yes, Cowboys fans, how bad the defense was before they go and trade for Quinnen Williams and before they kind of figured out, but they looked outmatched against Tyler Huntley, right? This was the Derrick Henry show. They knew what it was going to be. You knew you were going to get a healthy dose of 22, and they couldn't stop it. And it was just, even if you're in the playoffs, you still kind of got something to play for, right? And you still got to go out there. I think they still had a shot at the division. So, not exactly what you want to see as far as momentum and as far as, game tape coming into the postseason, where you're going to have to go up against the Lions or not the Lions, you have to go against the Bears and the Eagles, and probably a really good team from the NFC West as well.
Well,
I think this shows you exactly what a special talent can do, because Micah Parsons, when he was playing, he made everybody else around him better. That whole defense better. Okay, from the standpoint of he drew 6 hands most of the time. He drew the guy over him. He drew a double, and sometimes he drew a triple.
Yep.
And that freed up everybody else. That helped them play, keep things in front of them in zone coverage, because you knew that eventually he was getting to the quarterback. So when they played man, you knew the quarterback had to get the ball out of his hand quickly, because number one was coming up the field. And if number one wasn't coming up the field because he had 6 hands on him, you had somebody else coming up the field. So with him gone, you don't have to pay that extra attention to any other guys. So their defense looked really average right now without Micah Parsons.
And wouldn't you also call Derrick Henry, that other special player? Just make sure your guy doesn't make the tackle, because nobody else is going to want to tackle that dude.
Right.
Not when he's going full street. You can run in between the tackles with that guy like nobody else that we've seen in recent history. It's just an eyeful to behold. I really believe it. What an amazing player, and still in his prime, if you ask me. All right, let's get on to the Sunday games. There were 10 of them, guys. First one is Arizona going on the road against the on-again, off-again Bengals. 37 points is what they need. They had, 22 points at halftime, 22-7. 37-14 is the final. Bengals with Joe Burrow, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns. Joe was on, so Joe Cool, good day for him. Joey, we'll start with you. In a meaningless game where a 6-10 Bengals team after the win beat a 3-13 team, it's a ho-hummer for most people, but a nice win there for Cincinnati.
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati, they're playing for next year. They're hoping to. I think there may be some changes there. Who knows? They need a lot of help, but that didn't show up against the Cardinals, because the Cardinals are still the Cardinals, and they haven't done much to excite anybody. They played really good early in the season. They played a ton of close games, 1-score games. Then the quarterback got hurt. And they had 3 wins at that point, and he's on IR and hadn't played in the last 8 games or so, and they still have 3 wins. So that tells you what type team they have. The Cardinals I'm talking about, and they need a lot. They need a running game. They need another receiver. They need offensive linemen. They need pass rushers. They need corners. They probably need water boys. Who knows? They need a lot right now.
Well, Bengals end up with 30 middle points, where they get 16 in the second, 14 in the third quarter, really break this game wide open. And as Joey mentioned, Brian, there are plenty of teams that have a whole handful of things. You don't have enough fingers to plug up all the holes in the dike, but McBride, the tight end from Colorado State, ends up with another, 10 catches. He's certainly, he's only averaging 7 yards. It's a catch league. I want him getting first downs. I want him getting touchdowns, getting down the field. But congratulations to him on being one of the best tight ends in the league. But other than that, the Cardinals have a lot of needs. You're right.
It's across the board too, because it's just, Calais Campbell and Budda Baker might be the best players on your defense. So both guys, I mean, Calais is pushing 40, and Budda Baker he's been there a long time. Probably going to see a new quarterback, probably a new running back. I'm not completely sold on, the receiving core. I think they're good. I think Michael Wilson's had phenomenal games this year. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. I mean, if you look at the tape from last year and the Ohio State tape, you're just kind of wondering what happened, because it was on paper, this offense would be a lot better, but it's just something's got to change. And I think it's a lot of somethings for the Cardinals. I think, fortunately for them, they're going to have a really good pick, but this is a really bad Cincinnati defense. They didn't do much anything all day. And, credit Jacoby Brissett, for coming out and kind of holding the fort down and kind of keeping it together, as best he could. But this is a pretty bad football team. You saw that. And then on the flip side, if you look at Cincinnati, how well they've been playing the last couple of weeks. I mean, what could have been, right? If Joe Burrow stays healthy and, if a couple different things happen, I mean, this is a team that could very well be in the thick of it. I mean, you got 2 teams fighting for the division that both have, 8 and 9 wins next week. And I think the Bengals are just as good as them. And it's just, unfortunately for them and on to next year.
Yeah, in a weaker division this year, it's interesting to see how that would have turned out had Joe stayed healthy, but he didn't, and so they're 6-10. In the Battle of Ohio, the next game we're going to look at is the Steelers going to Cleveland. What an interesting debacle this is for a Steeler fan. All 6 of your points are in the second quarter. I don't know how many possessions you had in the second half, but you just couldn't move the ball, and Aaron Rodgers didn't have a stellar game, if you ask me. 168 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. He was sacked twice. They rushed for 131 yards, but they weren't able to get the ball in the end zone. So, Joey, what do you say if you're a Steeler fan where, once again, you got to go into the last game of the season not knowing whether or not you're going to make the playoffs?
This was a tough loss for the Steeler fans because Cleveland was a game. They didn't have a lot to play for. They were excited about trying to get Myles Garrett the sack record, and obviously the Steelers weren't going to let that happen on their watch. They were going to put a lot of hands on him, and Myles was unhappy about that, and I'm not sure why, because he had to know they weren't just going to lay down and let him do that. However, Cleveland came out and played like they wanted to win the game, and the Steelers came out playing like they knew they would win the game because Cleveland would lay down, and Cleveland did not lay down. Cleveland took this game very seriously, and I think the Steelers missed DK Metcalf in this game. I think this is a game they really missed him. I think they had another. They started a rookie left tackle, I believe, which so their starting left tackle was out as well. So they had some pieces missing, but that's no excuse for the way they played offense in this game. Defense played well enough to win the game. To be quite honest with you, the offense stunk the joint up all day long.
Yeah. Tight end Freiermuth with 3 receptions for 63 yards. Again, I mentioned some of the stats that Aaron Rodgers had. Just a tough loss. I think Joey hit the nail on the head. The Raiders used to impress me back in the 70s and 80s with how they would win a game at the end. And then they started just showing up. Hey, we're the Raiders. We're going to win. And they would lose in the third or fourth quarter. Second half would be, hey, we're the Raiders. You're not supposed to beat us. And everybody else says, well, you know what? You're not doing anything. That's my opinion, of course. Joey, you were a part of the Raider organization. I'm not trying to belittle that. It's just that was what I thought the Raider image was. We're here. You're going to lose and bow down just because we are. Steelers, kind of that impression there early in the game. It didn't work on Cleveland. Certainly, Shedeur had a nice game, 186 yards and a touchdown for him. He's getting a little bit better, working on that confidence. We'll talk about Cam Ward in just a little bit, but these rookies getting a chance to play and show what they can do.
Yeah, like I said, it was. I'm sorry, Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
No, I think it's just interesting that what you said. This is a game if the Steelers win this game, you're done, right? You put it away. You don't have to worry about it. You put it to rest. And you think, despite DK Metcalf being out, you're going up against a team that has a rookie quarterback that doesn't have a lot of starts, right? Other than the sack record, this team doesn't have much to play for, right? You lose Judkins the week before. It's just, Tomlin with all the success and how well he's done there, just to lose this game, it's tough, right? It's rough. And now it comes down to the wire next week against the Ravens.
Yep. Then Joey, I know you had something else to add to that. Please go ahead.
No. I was just going to say that again, it was really disheartening the way the Steelers played. Basically, that was in a nutshell. It was really disheartening, knowing what they had to play for, knowing they could have set out this week. Now, that being said, they played Baltimore and for basically a winners in the playoff, the losers at home.
Yeah,
and they'll probably play pretty good. Everybody will expect Baltimore to win that game because you feel like they're going to run up and down the field on the Steelers. But the Steelers will probably win that game, and that just go along with even more frustrating season that you've had with this team.
Well, Lamar Jackson. We don't know if Lamar Jackson will be healthy yet either.
Exactly.
It's going to be interesting. It'll be a very interesting one.
Yeah, if he's not in, it will be handoff left, handoff right, stand up, sit down, fight. That's what it's going to be. Well, the battle for Ohio, at least in Week 17, was won by Ohio. The Bengals and the Browns both winner. The Browns 13-6 over the Steelers in a division rivalry game that obviously Cleveland fans at 4-12 at least have a little bit to celebrate this season. Well, we beat you. That's what we can say. Now let's turn to the next game. If you don't mind, we'll talk a little bit about the New Orleans Saints and how they kind of didn't have any points in the first quarter. But 34-26 is the final there against another team that's kind of weak. Saints go to 6-10. Brian, I'm going to start with you. We're going to switch up a little bit. Tyler Schuff has a pretty nice game. What are his stats? 333 yards, 2 touchdowns. He with no interceptions. He was only sacked twice. Congratulations. In the battle of rookie quarterbacks, he kind of outdueled Cam Ward a little bit, but 34-26 is the final. The Titans fall to 3-13 at home after a win last week. Your thoughts here about this one?
Well, I'll say this, because the Falcons and Rams game just went final. The Saints over their last 7 are 5-2. They have they might have found something here. I think coming into next season, I think you got to feel really good about, bringing in the young kid Tyler Shuck from Louisville. I think he's played very, very well. They don't have a ton of talent right now. I think they're going to build around him, but this is. I think both these teams should feel good about their quarterbacks going forward. I think there's a lot of holes that need to be filled, obviously, right? I think you kind of need to. Both teams need receiver help. Both teams need help on defense. Both these teams are going to be picking very high in the draft, but yeah, I think the future is bright for both these teams. I think if you do if you can build around what you have as far as the foundation, because I think the hardest thing to do is go get your quarterback, right? I think that's why teams spend all these picks and they trade up and they're willing to mortgage the farm for a guy that they can come in. The rumor mill, if you're going to trade for Lamar Jackson, it's 3 firsts, or Joe Burrow is 3 or 4, just whatever it is, right? You go get your quarterback, your play caller, whatever. And I think both of these guys have very good pedigrees, and I think they got good stuff. I think if you watch them play, they got the arm strength. I think they have the intangible, the intangibles to have success at the next level. I mean, we've seen it, right? I think I'll give Ty a little more leniency because I think Cam is just, there's no talent on this team offensively, this Titans team. It's very tough to watch, but this is one of those games where if you're optimistic and if you're looking towards the future of the NFL, you got two young guys that have the last month or so played very, very well. And I think both of these organizations are happy where they are with the draft class and, some optimism going forward.
Joey, if you don't mind, while Brian was talking, I was kind of dreaming about something a little bit. Kellen Moore is doing a lot with these misfit toys that he's got. Very little talent, team that fired their coach, and last 5 or 6 games, as Brian started off with, I can take a rookie quarterback, I can take my second or third string running back, I can take some wide receivers that nobody else in the league would want, and we're just going to play hard. We're going to play this offense, and we're going to watch where it goes. And something in that locker room has go, gosh, this might work, and it is working. As Brian, 5 out of the last 6 or 7 games? So congratulations to the Saints of being able to find something that they believe in. It took a little while. They got turned down. They got shut out a few times, if you know what I'm saying, offensively. But is this the type of a turnaround that you need at the end of the season where, gosh, if we get 1 or 2 pieces here, another offensive lineman, we get an edge rusher, we're going to be pretty dangerous next year?
Well, I'll say this because I went to this game. I was at this game this Sunday. So yeah, I was really excited to see these 2 young quarterbacks play live. And I was really impressed with both of them. And I assure you, the Philadelphia Eagles miss Kellen Moore right now.
Sure.
They really do, because his play calling, his timing, just his feel for the game. I witnessed that live on Sunday, and he did a really good job, and he's done a really good job developing Tyler Shuck into what he is today. And kudos to him. He did a good job of finding Chris Olave when they needed to. He was accurate down the field. He was patient in the pocket. He did a lot of really good things. And the offensive line played pretty well for him. Now, Tennessee doesn't have a lot of pass rushing ability, although Simmons is probably the best defensive lineman that nobody knows of right now because he's on such a bad team rebuilding. There were times when he was a man amongst boys, and it was impressive. And you feel bad for a veteran guy like him who has done a lot in this league, who is on a team that's kind of rebuilding because he's not getting the notoriety he should. But watching him, I felt almost like I was watching Chris, the kid that's playing in Kansas City. I mean, there are times in the game where he dominated. On third down, when he needed to get back there, he dominated. He got the quarterback off kilter. He did a lot of really good things. With that being said, Tennessee just they don't have players that scare you. You don't have to double anybody on the outside. You don't have to double a tight end. There are no real playmakers on that team other than a quarterback. I mean, there were times watching that game live when the offensive line blocked pretty well. Cam Ward had 6 seconds to throw the ball, and nobody was open. Nobody could get open. I mean, it was bad. I mean, I was sitting beside a friend of mine, and there were 3 times I'm telling him, look, he can't throw the ball to anybody. There's nobody to throw the ball to. Everybody's covered. And he had time to do it. So the Titans are just void of talent. Explosive playmakers, just playmakers, talented guys. They're void of that right now. So that's the kind of retooling they need to do.
Joey, do me a favor. Since you went there, I want to take a second to for the fans out there. As a former general manager, as a scout, what do you look for? What do you watch? You mentioned Kellen Moore and the way that he calls plays, and are you watching with the confidence that he has when he's pacing up and down the sideline like some coaches do? What is your observation level like? What do you see, and what do you need to see when you go to a game to say that to everybody in the organization that you're working for, I'm impressed with somebody because they did this? How do you develop that?
Well, I like to see his feel for the game, coach's feel for the game. So if we aren't running the ball well, how can we create runs? Do we create runs with short passing game, with a 5 yard, with a quick game? Because a quick game is another version of a run game. So that keeps you out of long distance. That gets 2nd and 5 is better than 2nd and 9, 2nd and 8, when you can't really run the ball up the middle. So what's his feel for the game? Is he calling screens? How is he getting his playmakers in space? What is he doing to do that? Is the quarterback always under center? Are they doing play action, or is he getting the quarterback in position to do the things that he does best? Now, Tyler Shuck is really good from the pocket, but he's a sneaky athlete, and he was able to, when things broke down, take off running. Cam Ward was able to do that too, but the Titans' offense was really predictable other than the touchdown they scored on. They had a 4th down where they went for it. I think it was 4th and 2, and they threw the ball to the tight end. The tight end broke 2 tackles and scored on like a 40-yard touchdown. And that was really creative how they got him open. But you have to be creative when you aren't able to run the ball efficiently sometimes. Now, Tennessee runs the ball pretty good most of the time. The back they got from Dallas is a pretty good back. And
Tony Pollard, yeah.
Tony Pollard. And Tony Pollard, he does some pretty good things. He's still got some juice in his legs. He's a pretty good catcher out of the backfield when they throw it to him. They don't throw it to him often enough out of the backfield. But they're just so young at other positions. I mean, they still need help at the interior line position, at the guard position. They probably need another. The kid from Alabama is pretty good, 55, the tackle. But they need help at so many other positions. But to go back to your question, Kellen Moore, his feel for the game is really what was the difference in this particular game, and probably what's been the difference in this 4 or 5 game winning streak that they've been on, because just his feel for what Tyler Shuck can do as a young guy. They still don't run the ball effectively enough at times, but they're able to create, again, short yardage on 2nd and 3rd down to give themselves a chance.
Thank you for that input. I appreciate it. I'm just the average fan doesn't hear the conversation between coaches and what they're saying. I'm going to give a very specific example. I'm in Atlanta. We're playing with the Falcons, and June Jones is the offensive coordinator. This is before he was a head coach. Jerry Glanville is the head coach, and Jerry keeps yelling over to June, and they're 10 feet apart, and they've got headphones and they're talking to each other, but they're talking to each other literally through the headphones. It's as if they weren't wearing them. And Jerry says, I'm in between both of them. And Jerry goes, when are you going to throw the deep ball, June? And June says, I got to set it up, Jerry. We're going to run a couple screens first. I got to draw, I got to bring the guys inside a little bit before I go over the top. And they're saying stuff that the coaches would say to each other probably 1,000 times. But during a game when Jerry was going, let's go, we got to get there, Jerry. It's a little bit of a journey. I want to throw it deep, but don't trust me, we're going to. But
yes.
You get to hear some of that, obviously, during the meetings and everything that you get to be a part of, but also getting a chance to listen to how these coaches communicate with one another. It is a fascinating part of the football game, and someday they make that available to all of us. I know they won't, but it's a dream come true if we get something like that. All right, let's move on to the next game. All right, final here, 34-26. Saints end up going 6-10 right now with this victory, and the Titans fall to 3-13. Next game we're going to look at Jacksonville. They keep surprising, guys. I said last week, I'm sorry, Trevor, I got to apologize to you. I'm not going to apologize anymore because I'm not going to beat them up. 23-17, just enough to win on the road against Indianapolis, a team that absolutely needed to get a win. They don't. Colts are pretty much done this year. They fall to 8-8. Trevor had 263 yards. He didn't have a touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked twice, but they rushed for 120. Another ho-hum game, right, Brian? Just a ho-hum victory, kind of like what the Broncos are doing. I can't impress you with big numbers, but no big touchdowns or anything like that. But you know what? We win the game, and I've got 12 of them.
Well, I mean, over the last month, we kind of forgot with how well Trevor Lawrence is playing. This defense is really stout.
Mm-hmm.
They're tremendously good up front. And when Trevor was struggling, that was kind of their bread and butter for the first month or so in the season. And if you go back and you watch the Kansas City game, the Monday night game, kind of their coming out party, right? That was a big game for them. That was their kind of announcing to the league, like, hey, we can play with these guys. We've arrived. And the defense carried that game. And, when they need to, they can. And I think when they need to run the ball, they can. This team has a bunch of different dimensions they can beat you with. And it's just been consistent. They're right up there. If they could have figured out a little bit earlier, they could be fighting for the 1 seed in the AFC. I don't know what the tiebreaker scenario is for them, if they even have a chance. But only being a game behind the Patriots and the Broncos is nothing to scoff at, especially because they're coming off a win a couple weeks ago against the Broncos. So they've been very, very good. They've been very consistent, like you said. Trevor Lawrence has done enough to where, we're not belittling him anymore, but it's more so like we have expectations now, right? You're kind of expecting him now. Say, okay, you've done it over and over again. In a couple weeks, we're going to find out if he can do it in the playoffs. And on the flip side, if you're the Colts, Joey, they're one loss away from you being right and saying they're not at 8-2. They're not going to win another game the rest of the season.
Well, I hate being right about that, but I will say this: this game really showed Philip Rivers' age.
Yeah,
watching that game, I mean, you could tell the lack of arm strength that he has. I mean, he made a couple throws that really, if he had any type of real arm strength, any zip in his arm, he would have made those throws, and he just couldn't do that anymore. So this has been a great story for him, a great story. It tells you that a really smart, high-level thinker with high football acumen, that guy can play a long time at quarterback. If he's a quarterback, he can play a long time because he can get you in and out of situations. I mean, on the field, you can hear him moving guys around and getting them in position to make plays. So a really smart quarterback can get you in and out of different things that talent can't get you out. Your brains can get you out of places that your body can't get you out of sometimes. And that was the case with Philip since he's been back. But they just have to figure out the quarterback position for whether that's Daniel Jones or whomever next year. But they're done for the year. It's just a matter of whether they're going to finish with a winning record or a losing record.
Yeah, and the expectations, especially early on, Brian, what were they, 8-2? You said that the whole city was going, all right, we got a chance this year, and then pump the brakes. My goodness, that was what a turn of events that they had there. But anyway, so this one, Jaguars end up winning 23-17 is the final. Their next game we're going to talk about is Tampa Bay going on the road, battle for Florida. Tampa goes down south to Miami. Is this another team that may not win a game? Brian, I'll start with you. Tampa has just struggled mightily. They've gone from we can win any game as long as we've got the ball in the last possession in the fourth quarter to we're going to lose every game, whether we got the ball or not in the last possession in the fourth quarter. 7-9 versus 7-9 after this one. Again, 2017 is the final. Dolphins hold on to win this one.
Well, I talked about the Saints being 5-2 in their last 7. The Bucs are 1-7 in their last 8. This is another team that if you go back 3 months ago, you're saying, man, this team has a chance to maybe compete for the 1 seed in the NFC. They can't beat anybody now. They can't beat the bad teams. They can't beat the good teams. The passing attack is lackluster. They can't run the football defensively. They're not making stops when they need to. And, because of this loss now, even if they beat the Panthers on Sunday, they don't control their own destiny. They would need, I believe they need the Saints to beat the Falcons. Otherwise, because then there'd be a 3-way tie for first place in the NFC South, which the Panthers would own, because it's a mess right now for the Bucs. And it's just, they were 6-2. They were sitting pretty. They were 6-2. I remember we talked about it. One of our games going up that we previewed was them against the Rams. And I think that was kind of the turning point. They got spanked in that game. And I think it revealed a lot of stuff to maybe some other teams you could see on film and say, hey, if we could stop this, they're just not very good. Maybe the talent isn't there. I know Baker's been banged up, but everything's fallen off the rails in Tampa Bay, and it's a mess. And if you look at Miami, they kind of figured out a little bit too late. It's kind of the opposite for them, right? They started off terribly, and they've kind of figured it out down the last couple of months, but too little, too late. And if the Bucs, they still got a chance to make the playoffs, but at this point, even if they get in, I don't think they go very far.
Quinn Ewers, Joey throws for 172 yards. He's got 2 touchdowns. He got sacked twice. They rushed for 145 yards. That's not too bad for a Miami team that really is playing for nothing. Their division has been done for them now for a month, or at least maybe 6 weeks. But playing for pride and playing for their job. But another victory there for Miami. Good for them.
Yeah, I think some of the players are really just trying to put some good things on tape, because you never know what's going to happen at the end of the year. So they're playing hard, and when you can rush for that, again, if they won the line of scrimmage, despite Baker threw for almost 350 yards.
Yeah.
But guess what? They rushed for what? They had to rush for under 50 yards. Their leading rusher had 19 yards, I believe.
53.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So there was no balance to their attack. And quite frankly, their defense has, in Tampa Bay I'm talking about, has been subpar for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And I know Miami scored 20 points, but Miami got key first downs via the run that really exposed some of the things that Tampa was lacking defensively, and especially up front at times. So it was really a tough loss for Tampa. They're finding more ways to lose than they are to win right now, and that's unfortunate for them.
Well, Dolphins, they're 7-9. We're going to stay in the AFC East. We're going to look at the next game, which is at New York. The Jets are hosting the Patriots, and this was over before it really even started. Were the Patriots just going to win this one? Joey, I'll start with you. When they got off the bus, because it was 35-3 at halftime. They scored once again in the third quarter and kind of shut everything down. Now, Belichick would have scored 55 and been mad at the team and really chewed them out, make them run wind sprints afterwards. But Vrabel, again, tied for Denver. They're 13-3. What a great position that the Patriots are in right now. This one was pretty much an easy victory on the road for them.
The Jets have no answers offensively, defensively, special. They just have no answers.
Nothing.
Nothing. Offensively, I don't even know what was done offensively. But I know Drake May. They made Drake May look like the second coming of Tom Brady. They really did. If you want to be an MVP candidate, you either play the Jets or you play the Raiders, and you will have a chance of being an MVP candidate. That's for sure.
Okay.
And they did whatever. They did whatever they wanted to do. Whatever they wanted to do. They could have put a bag on their head and ran a flea flicker. It would have worked versus the Jets.
Yeah.
And that's the bad thing, because watching the Jets play, and when you get a new head coach in, you expect there are going to be changes, and the new head coach is always preaching patience, because we're changing stuff over. It's going to take us time to get things going our way, but this is really bad. There have been first-year coaches fired before. I'm not saying that Aaron Glenn should be fired by any stretch, because he needs a lot of help there. I really wish he had a veteran offensive coordinator instead of a young guy. He fired his defensive coordinator halfway through the season. I'm not sure I would have done that either. But, those were head coaching decisions and ownership decisions. But they're really bad right now. And I'm not sure they aren't the worst team in the league. The Titans are certainly better than this team. And the Raiders play better defense than this team plays. So I'm not sure the Jets aren't the worst team in the league right now. And right now, I don't see a silver lining moving forward. And I'm sure they'll draft better. They'll get guys in free agency. So some of that stuff will change. But they are really bad in a lot of areas as a football team right now.
Yeah, well, they rushed for 150. Hall had 111 yards and a touchdown for them. But Brian, as Joey said, nothing else going for them against a division rival that Patriots have so quickly turned things around from where you fire Belichick, Brady's gone, he goes and wins the Super Bowl somewhere else. What's going on in New England? And who would have thought that they are dominating the way that they are right now in a ho-hum manner with a group of guys that nobody knows, not many people know. This isn't your typical Patriots team. This is a new group of guys that really believe in themselves in a very special and unique way.
Well, remember the Patriots were a team. They had a coach go one and done as well. So it was, they're kind of the same boat as where the Jets were, although that nearly is as bad as what the Jets were. But I think the play calling early on was, hey, let's go try to win Drake May MVP. And in the first half, he certainly did it, right? I think he had either 4 or 5 touchdowns in the first half. It was effortless. And at the NFL level, it should never be that effortless, right? It just shouldn't be. Even if you're a bad football team, even if you're throwing backups out there, it doesn't matter. It was an effortless sort of game for Drake May. And he's very, very good, right? He's either going to win MVP or probably finish second or third, but just a lot of soul searching for the Jets, right? We kind of ragged on the Cardinals earlier, saying they needed everything. And the Jets are kind of the same boat. You need a quarterback, you need help across the board at receiver, defense. Now they're going to have first round picks. They trade a bunch of guys away, so they're going to have a plethora of capital to go out and bring somebody in. But it's not a very good football team. And by the way, the Jets don't have interception on the season. I think they're the only team in the league that doesn't have a single. I don't know if that's ever been done, but they're 1 week away from getting a goose egg as far as interceptions, which is it's almost unheard of. How many times teams drop back to pass now. And especially because this is a team that their bread and butter was defense for a very long time, even when they were bad. Yeah. So the Jets are a mess. They kind of need an overhaul of everything. I like Aaron Glenn. I don't think he should be one and done, but it's just like Joey said, things are bleak there right now. And it's just Patriots are kind of the opposite. They turned it around, and maybe if you're the Jets, you can kind of look at what the Pats did and say, hey, we're going to steal that blueprint because obviously it seems to be working.
Do you know how hard it is not to have an interception during the season? I mean, when we're evaluating players, a lot of, especially a corner or safety, and you see a guy that finishes a career and he doesn't have an interception. So you're wondering. I mean, that means nobody has ever been unlucky against you. Now we're talking about a whole team. Nobody's through 17 weeks have not been unlucky against you. I mean, the guy didn't sneeze, somebody didn't hit the quarterback's hand, and to not have an interception during the season. A tip
ball, nothing, nothing.
A tip ball, nothing. I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, I don't know when the last time that was done. Probably never in a 17-game season.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think it's ever happened. So bad side of history for the Jets.
It is bad. It is so bad. All right, the Jets are 3-13. They lose 42-10 at home. Their home finale, and let's move on, shall we? I mean, congratulations to the Patriots. I gotta go take a shower. I gotta wash that off, man. That was bad. All right, Seahawks go to Panthers. Carolina has so much to play for, guys. Joey, I'll start with you. They lay a goose egg, so to speak. They score in the second and the fourth quarter, but too little, too late. 27-10 is the final. 13-3, that seems to be the number. There's 3 teams in the league that have it, and the Seattle Seahawks are one of them. 27-10 is the final here, and Panthers fall to 8-8, and they are in a game for their lives next week against Tampa. They may be in a 3-way tie, but if they win, they're in. That it's real simple. They should have won this one. To win at home, but to lose the way that they did, guys. Bryce Young throws 14 completions for 54 yards. Yeah. They rushed for 99, no touchdowns, 2 sacks. Brian, since you said latest, I'll start with you. We've kind of teased Bryce Young a little bit. If they're not playing the Atlanta Falcons, he's not getting 300 yards, but 54 yards against the Seahawks defense. Are you kidding me?
I mean, he's had some bad games, right? And obviously you're going to have growing pains. He's still a young quarterback or whatever, but this was abysmal from top to bottom. The offense they couldn't do anything. I think Teteroa McMillan was sick. He still played. He still suited up. He still played, but I think he had 1 catch for 5 yards in this one. Mm-hmm. And you look at the stat sheet, you almost don't believe it. It looks like a first quarter stat sheet, right? If you look at just the yards or whatever, it looks like a quarter. And this was over a whole game. And
like a preseason game, this is a preseason game where he might have played a series or 2 in the second quarter. This is a full game in the NFL in a regular season at the end of the year, 54 yards.
In a game they have a chance to clinch a playoff spot. And I understand the Seahawks are a very good football team. They're playing for a lot themselves, right? But this was ugly. This was very, very bad. You shouldn't have 54 yards in a passing game. Now, Sam Darnold didn't play all that much better, right? I think he only had 147, but these are 2 very good defenses. It's just someone gets to play the winner of the NFC South, and it's almost a freebie in the playoffs, right? The way both these teams are playing right now, either the Bucs or the Panthers, it's bad. Short memory though, right? Bryce Young's got a short memory. Shake it off. Come back next week. They got a must-win game, but the tape was ugly. The stats were ugly. Everything about this game is ugly. I think this is just one of the film sessions we just burn it, right? You just don't even watch it. Let's move on. We're not this football team, and better luck next week.
Joey, I needed a bath after the Jets discussion. Now I'm going to need to be pressure washed after the Panthers. This is an ugly game.
Well, I thought this was always going to be a tough game for Carolina because of the way Seattle plays defense. And Seattle is one of the top 2 or 3 defenses in the National Football League. And the way they can pressure the passer, the way they cover on the back end with their corners and safety, they play physical. This was always going to be a tough game. I would have expected Carolina to play better than they played, however, and be able to run the ball a little bit. But it was always going to be difficult. And for Seattle, when they aren't explosive on offense, it really doesn't hurt them as much as it would hurt some other teams because they play defense so well. So they were on the road, and defense travels. And we've always said that defense travels, and their defense traveled here. And really, it could have been, with the exception of a few plays, it really could have been a shutout. It really could have been. So kudos to Seattle for taking care of business. Every win is not going to be 38, 42 points. Some wins will be 27-10. So they did what they needed to do on the road, and they're on to a more important game versus San Francisco this upcoming week.
Yeah, 13-3. Seahawks again, 27-10 is the final there for that one. Congratulations to them. Panthers fall to 8-8 and must win against Tampa to get a division win. But we'll move on to the next one. Brian, I'm going to start with you just because we kind of had some fun with this last week. This is the number 1 bowl game, right? This is going to be not who's the best team in the league, but who gets the number 1 pick as the worst team in the league. And the Raiders certainly lived up to all expectations and flopped. They're 2-14 right now, 34-10 at home. Giants said, not us, not now, not on our watch. We're going to play really good. They do. Jackson Dart throws for 200 yards, but they rushed the ball okay as a team. What were their final numbers? 155 yards versus 63 on the ground for the Raiders. Geno Smith throws for 176 yards. Raiders are just bad. I need another shower. This is another one of those games where I need some more soap.
I don't think all is lost for the Giants because, fortunately for them, I think they have their quarterback room figured out, at least for the foreseeable future with Jackson Dart. I can't say that's the case for the Raiders. I think they were big believers in Geno Smith, and I think if you watch his tape from last year and the year before, obviously he gave them reason to do so. But I'll also say this, their offensive line is bad. It's probably the worst offensive line in football if you watch the Raiders play. It's not a good product. Pete Carroll is another coach, got a good chance of being one and done just because – the roster I don't think is as bad as it is. And it's funny, the notifications going on early in the week, it was Giants shut down this guy for the year. Raiders shut down Max Crosby. Giants shut down, I can't remember which tackle it was, but it's just back and forth that both these teams just seem like, I'm going to raise you. We're shutting down this guy. It just seems like both teams are trying to lose, right? You're going to shut down Crosby. Well, we're going to shut down our offensive line. We don't really care. But at the end of it, I think Jackson Dart I just think he wants to go out and play and win. I don't think he understands what's going on anyways. I think he's just like, hey, anytime I touch a football field, I want to go out there and try to do the best I can and win games. And, fortunately for the Raiders, if Pete Carroll is one or done, you have the number 1 overall pick. So you got a lot to mess around with. And it makes it a little bit easier for the new guys coming in, or even if Pete stays and you try to rebuild. But it's been some ugly football the last 3 or 4 games we've talked about. I think we got 2 good games to wrap it up. Thank goodness. But yeah.
We do.
Just ugly. Yeah.
All right, Joey, let's hear it because I want to talk about the good games. But the Raiders, you talked about Mark Davis a little bit earlier. You kind of nodded your head a little bit when Pete may be done with one. Pete may want to be done. He may go, I can't coach this team.
This team aged him 3 more years at least.
Well, nothing they did said that Pete Carroll or Geno Smith was the long-term solution to this. Geno's contract tells you that he was just if anything, he's going to be the guy that the bridge quarterback to the new quarterback, whomever that is. And Pete signing a 3-year deal. I mean, he was already the I'll put it nice. He was already the most vintage head coach in the league, age-wise already, and then he only signed a 3-year deal. So I could see both of those things changing. I could see them starting a rookie quarterback next year, although I'm not sure I would. I would probably draft a quarterback with the first pick. But I also may try to get the quarterback from Green Bay, the backup, and see if he can start and let the rookie grow under him. I would consider doing that, because usually when you need one player at a position, you probably need two. So right now they need two quarterbacks. I don't know the guaranteed money with Geno, so maybe Geno is the backup quarterback next year, or maybe they can get something from Geno in a trade. However, I'm gonna stop talking about this team because it was ugly, and we can talk about a game that really matters, because this wasn't one of them.
Yeah, well, Raiders at 2-14 are the number one pick in the draft right now, unless they blow it and they win a game and lose a tiebreaker. And there's a couple teams, including the Giants and the Jets and some others that we've talked about, that are they've only got 3 wins. So it could be a very, very competitive race, and the Raiders might end up losing the number one pick and the ability to to trade down and get 4 or 5 guys in the first and second round. Who knows? But let's move on to the next one. Finally, I get out of the sewage and let's talk about a great game. Not a great game, a great fourth quarter. Let me put it that way. Joey, let's start with you. 13-0. And then you go for 2 a couple of times. 13-12, Bills and Eagles. We talked a little bit earlier about the Eagles kind of struggling offensively. They had no points in the second half. It was a little cold, but just enough to win. Is that right? I mean, just kick the extra point and you're gonna win the game. But tell me what went wrong if you're a Buffalo fan.
I think if you're a Buffalo fan, the thing that went wrong is you're lacking on the receiver core. Okay, now the weather was bad, so you probably aren't going to throw the ball a whole lot in this game. And Josh was playing hurt. I mean, he had the nice run, and then it looked like he re-injured the foot a little bit after that run, and he tried to curtail that a little bit. And the Eagles have a really good defense. I mean, they probably would have won against a lesser team, but the Eagles have a really good defense. And Josh, I mean, he just clearly missed that last throw. I mean, because it was open. He was backpedaling. He got pressure. He was backpedaling. But Shakir came out of the route, reversed it, and was open. Josh just, he threw the ball early, and he just missed him. The timing was off. I understand why they went for the win, because they were trying to catch New England. They were trying to put a little pressure on New England. Yep. I think that's why they went for the win there. But in those weather conditions, I don't know. I mean, do you take your chance in overtime? I probably would have. I mean, I probably would have went a little more conservative, trying to just get in overtime, especially since I knew the Eagles' offense was god-awful the second half. I think I probably would have taken my chance on going to overtime and beating them in overtime rather than going for the 2.
Interesting philosophy there. I appreciate it. Brian, this is another one of those games. Was this just a preseason game? Jalen Hurts has 110 yards, 1 touchdown. They rush for 82 yards total, and they end up winning on the road. I'll take the victory, because there's no easy wins in the National Football League. I'll take it anytime I can for Philadelphia and give them just a little bit of momentum in a division where they won it, 3 weeks ago because of, it's the poor play. This might be a little bit of a boost for them, especially to be able to boast about going to Buffalo, playing in the cold, and beating them and doing enough to win.
That's kind of been the story of this team all season, though, is we beat a good team. We don't necessarily play our best game. And, it's good when, you're on the winning side of things, but it's just at some point I want to see the Eagles play their best game, right? Especially because we got one more week of the regular season. We're going to the playoffs. They're going to have to probably play their best football if they want to beat the Bears, or they want to beat the Niners. They want to beat teams that they're going to have to beat if they want to repeat as champions. So, credit to their defense. So their defense shows up every single week. You got to give this Eagles defense its props, because Vic Fangio does a phenomenal job with this unit. They got a ton of talent across the board. And I think that's why it's so frustrating watching these guys play, because I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback. I think A.J. Brown's a good receiver. I think the offensive line is still pretty good. It's just they look lackluster week in and week out. And, shout out Josh Allen as well. I mean, both these teams, it doesn't really matter as much for, this is mostly
Mhm.
just seeding at this point. They don't have a ton to play for, but you still go out. It's bad weather, so you kind of find out what you're made of. And Eagles were a little bit better, but Josh Allen did everything in his power to try to will him back in the fourth quarter. They came up just short. It wasn't enough.
Eagles 11-5, Bills 11-5, 13-12 is the final there. Philadelphia gets the win, and an important one for the Eagles for obvious reasons. Let's look at the last game from last evening. Bears and 49ers, another really good game, guys. It goes right down to the edge. But Bears impressed me with their ability to just stay in it and keep fighting. And this is new to this organization and this group of players. For them to, what they have, 200 yards they gave up rushing wise for San Francisco. Purdy throws for 303, has 3 touchdowns. But you know what? They were right there. It's a one-score game, and they got a chance there at the very end to win it. And Joey, even though it's a tough loss, if I'm anyone on that coaching staff, I'm patting my guys on the back, say that we don't want to lose. That's not what we're here to do. We're going to turn things around, and you guys are this close. Thank goodness we're going to get a home game to start our playoff run with. But great game to watch, wasn't it? I mean, back and forth the whole game.
You know what? It was probably the most exciting game of the weekend.
Yeah.
This game was fun to watch. If I'm Dennis Allen, I'm pulling my hair out because I'm trying to figure out where the heck the defense went. Now, we started off the game great with a pick six on defense, but after that, Brock Purdy kind of did what he wanted. They made at times Brock Purdy look like he was Caleb Williams.
Yeah,
because Caleb did some Houdini-like things from time to time, and guess what?
Yeah.
Brock Purdy did too. And they made Brock Purdy look like he was Caleb Williams. That being said, I'll start with Chicago. I was really I become more and more impressed with the growth of Caleb Williams, with what they're able to do on offense. Luther Burden had played great. Now he left the game on a stretcher. It sounded like it was a growing injury, so he probably won't play this upcoming week. But their offense has continued to grow. DeAndre Swift and the other kid running the ball, they do a really good job there as a tandem there. They're kind of different backs, which is a good thing. But defensively, they're really opportunistic. They get turnovers, but they don't play great. They aren't really sound, and they're more of a bend, don't break defense. And they give up from time to time. They give up a ton of yards on defense. I'm talking about the Bears. And San Francisco, on the flip side of that, they just do whatever it takes to win. McCaffrey is always he's been the bell cow, and he continues to be. I mean, running the ball, catching the ball, he does whatever it takes. Their starting left tackle, who's one of the top 2 or 3 in the league, went out early with an injury. They put in another guy, and they never missed a beat.
Yeah.
They never missed a beat. The tight end didn't play. They never missed a beat. So they just the next man up. They've had that next man up mentality on offense and defense, and they just keep. It's amazing. I'm not sure Cal Shanahan is not the coach of the year, despite all these new coaches that have come in and turned this thing around. I mean, with the injuries and attrition that this 49er team has gone through all year. You could easily say that he's done his best coaching job.
I'm going to ask both you guys the same question. If this game was in Chicago and the Bears have the ball in the last possession, is this a win for Chicago, or do we not know? Joey, I'll start with you.
Well, you know what? I would venture to say maybe, because it's interesting. The only thing I can compare this to is how they played Green Bay. You know, how Chicago played Green Bay at home, then they go to Green Bay, and you have a different result. So I just think if they were able to see a team twice, I think maybe they have the advantage because they're such a young football team that the second time around they're able to do things differently.
Ryan, same question to you. I'm going to start with you. Your comments on this game. With if this game is in Chicago, is it a different result, or was it that close, or are we just looking at the 49ers just being good enough to win, whether it's at home or on the road? They found that magic combination.
Well, it was. I mean, they almost pulled it out, right? They got close. I mean, they almost did win in San Francisco, but young football teams are going to play better at home, and this is still a very young team. I think the Bears are a better home team. I do think they win if they're in their place. Unfortunately, with the loss now, I don't think they can be with tiebreakers and everything. I think if San Francisco wins the division, but these are two very good football teams. And I think I said on the preview show, I said, hey, there's a chance this could be your NFC title game right here. And I wouldn't be surprised if these two teams are playing in a couple weeks for a trip to the Super Bowl on the line because like Joey said, the Niners are missing all pros. They're missing Pro Bowlers. Brandon Ayuk, I don't know what the heck's going on with him. They're all over the place. And it's just they keep winning. Brock Purdy missed a month of the season. It didn't really matter. They keep winning. And, oh, by the way, he has 10 touchdowns in his last 2 games. And he's been – if he played a couple more football games, I think he'd be right there in the MVP conversation. But Christian McCaffrey is just very quietly – I think he had 160, 170 total yards. Top to bottom, this team's very, very good. They're very, very deep. They're very well coached, and they show it to you week in and week out. And I think the Bears, though they lost the game, I think the idea right now is they're right there. They're right there with them. And I think even if you lose, you say, hey, we were 1 play away, right? We're in their place. So we're 1 play away from beating these guys. I think it's a tremendous confidence builder. But both these teams are very good. I don't have a knock on either of these guys. They both a ton of talent. They showed it on the field on Sunday night.
So I got a question for you guys. So what's the difference between the Bears this year and the Commanders last year? Is there much of a difference in those two teams?
Oh, man. I think the Bears might be a little bit better coached offensively. I think that might be. But, yeah, no, it's –
I wouldn't disagree with that, yeah.
Yeah, no, very similar. I think they're very similar. It's play style and everything. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think the similarity between both of them is what a complete surprise from the previous year.
Yeah.
New coach comes in and whatever, but Dan Quinn, the thing that you stack on his shoulders that he wasn't able to bear is the consistency. He had multiple 10-loss seasons, and he certainly is having this now with the Commanders. But that doesn't count. I'm talking about just last year, right, Joey? I think that's
just last year. Yeah, yes.
Just last year. What a surprise it was, and coming from nowhere. They picked second in the draft, and next thing you know, I think it was a bigger surprise for the Commanders, much bigger. Bill Russell, the old Boston Celtic, used to say, it's harder to play against the guy that you don't know versus playing against the guy that you do know.
Without question.
And I think that we didn't know anything about the Commanders, and we still don't know a whole lot about Chicago. But I think they're very similar. Is that the answer you're kind of expecting?
Yeah. They are. And just like you said, it's just like when you play a division team. Once you get tape, especially on a new quarterback, once you get tape on that new quarterback, then the things he was able to do the first time, he's usually not able to do the second time, because now he's put all that on tape. He's put all that on film.
Yeah. I'll say this. I think the Commanders 2 years ago, when they had Sam Howell at the helm, I think they led the league in sacks. I think they were the worst offensive line in football. Mm-hmm. They shored it up. Last year wasn't great, but they were better, and they improved. The Bears, they go out, they get Drew Dahlman, center from the Falcons, who's been fantastic. They go get Joe Tooney, who we mentioned earlier, from the Chiefs. And I think quarterback play is important, but I think if you can shore up your offensive line, both these teams did. I think it's just as much. You have to be able to protect the guy, right? They can throw the ball down the field, but you got to be able to protect the guy. And I think both these teams prioritize. We're going to get our quarterback room right, but we're also going to protect him. And I think it's paying dividends absolutely for the Bears. And the Commanders, I think they had some injuries on the offensive line. Obviously, Jay Nails gets hurt, but yeah, they both got their offensive lines right as well.
Without question. Yep.
Brian, it was Alex Mack, wasn't it, just a few years ago, that the Falcons bring in a Pro Bowl talent from a center standpoint. Guys knew what they were supposed to be doing in a way that they weren't doing it before. You had center quarterback exchange issues with the Falcons from the previous year. You bring in a guy that knows what he's doing, and next thing you know, they're winning playoff games and they're going to the Super Bowl. Sometimes it can be that type of a player who's more important in terms of your free agency, who can bring a group together that pays massive dividends. And so you just mentioned the offensive line shore up job that the Bears have had. And for obvious reasons, if you protect that quarterback and give him time to throw, ping, 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 and you win 11 games. You know what? Close in some of those losses, you're very, very close. So they could have 14 wins. They could also have 8. I get it. I'm just saying, but you are what your record shows that you are, and 11-5 is certainly a great place to be. Joey, please forgive me. I interrupted you.
No. It's three positions that rarely come up in free agency. That's a real all-pro type center.
Yeah,
because those guys are so valuable. A franchise type quarterback, and an all-pro type pass rusher. Those guys never make it to free agency. Never, because they'll either get franchised until you can't franchise them anymore. They'll get paid the exact amount of money they want, because that center is invaluable, because he's the key to that whole offensive line. So if you got a really good center, you try to keep that guy as long as you can, unless he's just itching to get out of there. So those guys never come up. So the fact that I think Alex Mack came from Seattle. Is that where he was before he came to you guys? Or Cleveland? Cleveland. That's right. He was Cleveland. I mean, and he was a good player for a very long time. So the fact that they were able to get him, right, that's going to screw up everything else. And it's also going to take a lot of pressure off the quarterback.
His ability to know before the defense moves, they're going to switch and we're going to slide left, whatever the signal call is. And then guess what? Right before there's a guy that moves and you slide left and it's the right call and everybody knows and trusts him. And now they start picking it up too. It's kind of like you're vying for who can win the SAT highest score in high school. There's a competition to be able to be better, and it syncs people up in a different way. It's very valuable, and as you mentioned, Joey, it is a very valuable situation and one that doesn't come up very much, because everybody knows sign your interior guys first, your center, your guards, work your way out to your tackles, and it could pay dividends for years. All right, let's go to the last game. This is the one that just finished here a little while ago. Falcons hold on to win. They get a field goal late in the game. 27-24 is the final. I'll give you a couple of stats, guys. Matthew Stafford throws for 269 yards. He has 2 touchdowns, but 3 interceptions. He was sacked 3 times. They rushed for 115 yards, did the Rams, but Falcons, ho-hum, Bijan Robinson, 195 yards on 22 carries. He and Derrick Henry are completely different, but their numbers are almost identical, and good for them. Kirk Cousins throws for 126 yards. He has a touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks. Give me your thoughts here on this one. In a game where the Falcons were eliminated 3 weeks ago, Brian and I talked about this during the week. If they had just beaten the Jets, or if they had beaten
the Dolphins,
any one of the 5 teams they lost back to back, they might be a playoff team. But my God, they lost. We mentioned this a little bit earlier in the show. They lost 7 out of 8, and you're done. You can't fight in the league when you do that.
Well, the Falcons are interesting. That obviously they're playing. They don't have a lot to play for, and if I heard the reports right on TV tonight before we came on the air, that Arthur Blank has a firm in to evaluate the whole organization, which tells you that they're probably in the process of firing not only the head coach, but the general manager as well. So anytime you have that kind of thing happening, that lets you know that they're preparing to clean house.
Joey, I have to interrupt you. Why do you need to hire a firm to run your business? Goodness gracious. I'm embarrassed to hear that. It's a shame to say that. Know your team well enough to go, it isn't working, and we're going to bring in some other people. That's all you need to do. I'm sorry. I've heard this now. I've been with this organization since 1991, and it just bothers me to hear that they have to hire a firm, somebody from outside, to help them run the organization better. Shouldn't you have done that before you made the last decision? You as a general manager should know that you need to trust us to do stuff. And when we don't do it, we're going to go.
It's called disposable income.
It is. Yes.
Is it a tax write-off? Is it a tax write-off?
It's called disposable income. You need somebody to tell you what you already know.
Yeah. Confirm it. Well, Brian, they brought in 100 coaches last year, including Bill Belichick. He got to ride in Arthur's yacht. That's good, but you didn't hire the man, right? That was 2 years ago, and he goes to North Carolina, and who knows how long he'll be there. But let's talk about something good. I don't want to take another shower. Rams are now 11-5. but they're still in the playoff hunt. They've gone from first place, and in 2 weeks they are now barely hanging on. They're in the playoffs, but they're going to be traveling on the road somewhere. They're no longer fighting for the division. That's going to obviously go to Seattle. And then San Francisco has a chance with the game out to get a tiebreaker. But tell me what's going on with the Rams.
I think they kind of just, I think maybe they overlooked the Falcons a little bit. It's a tough game in prime time. You got to go on the road, West Coast to East Coast. It's a long trip. Now, they did have 3 extra days to prep because they played the Thursday night game a couple weeks. It was almost 10 days. So they got like 10 or 11 days to get ready for this. It was one of those things where you got 2 good defenses like this. It's the team that blinks first. It's the team that makes mistakes first. And unfortunately for them, Matthew Stafford, 3 turnovers on the night. He almost had a 4th. They got negated by a penalty. But that Bijan Robinson kid's pretty good. He's pretty special. And now Puka Nacua, they got a guy. He's pretty stinking good on the other end for the Rams. But it's hard to lose a game to one player, and it's hard to say that they lost a game to one player. But man, it was the Bijan Robinson show. And Joey, a point to you. By the way, the last team the Indianapolis Colts beat were these Atlanta Falcons. So that insult to injury, that was the last team. That was their last win. It was a little over 2 months ago. So we're talking about the Falcons wins, games they could have, would have, should have had. There's probably 5 or 6 of them you could flip around if you really wanted to. But too little, too late. They're playing some good football. They got some good young talent. Xavier Watts, I think he had 2 interceptions in this game. He's going to be a good little player in the secondary for them. Yep. Jesse Bates played well, but
he had a pick
very,
six. Yeah.
very uncharacteristic game for Matthew Stafford. I think that was the difference in this one. They almost came back. Jared Verse had a couple of sacks. I think I think he blocked the field goal and he took it back for a touchdown. He's a special player too, the kid from Florida State. I think that's part of the reason why the transition from Aaron Donald to this new era of Rams football and their defense especially was so clean, because guys like Jared Verse have been playing well. Nate Landman played well, former Falcon. He is homecoming. He was spectacular. But if Stafford cleans it up a little bit, I think they win this football game.
I'll say this. I would say that if the Rams didn't have anything to play for, this was an easy game to lose.
Yeah.
From the standpoint of the coaching staffs knew each other really well. Raheem was on that staff when they won the championship. The staffs are really close. Yeah. So the commonality of knowing what the other team likes to do and what those things were, he knew that. So this was an easy game for the Rams to come across country. They have to play in Atlanta, and like I told you guys before, Atlanta is one of the 3 or 4 toughest places to play in if you're a visitor, because of all the outside activities that the young guys like to do, along with facing a team where the coaching staffs know each other and the schemes that they're going to play. So I'm not surprised that the Falcons won this game, to be quite honest with you, because the Rams really didn't have anything to play for.
Very interesting perspective. So there is that West Coast going to the East Coast where you get the time change, but they had extra time to prepare, extra days to rest from a Thursday game to a Monday game. Obviously, you get another day to prepare, but it's a long trip, and who knows what happened. But Matthew Stafford isn't perfect. He's not a robot, and even though 269 is nice, but they struggled. They had no points in the first half. They're trailing 21-0, and the Rams end up losing. They fall to 11-5, and the Falcons rise up to 7-9, and also rise up to say there is a firm that has been hired that will tell them what they need to do. And I'm sure they'll also say nobody can tell us what to do except for the firm that tells us what to do. So we'll see how that goes. Guys, final thoughts before we go. Joey, I'll start with you.
Next week could be interesting. There are 2 or 3 really good games that will determine seeding, but most of the playoffs teams are set. I think there are only 2 games that come up, the Carolina game and the Steelers game, where the winner's in and the loser's out. But we have 2 or 3 other games that will confirm seeding in the last week of the season. So it'll be interesting. Defense wins championships. So we'll see the teams that are playing the best defense.
Well, before we go, Joey, remember a couple of years ago where you needed an abacus and you needed to talk to Albert Einstein to figure out all these playoff predicaments, and if this team loses and this team loses and this team wins by more than 10 points, and if there's a tiebreaker, there's so many different things. It's a little more settled this year, which in many respects, is that better for the fans and the networks?
Oh, I think so. I think the league, I think the odd number of games help with that a little bit, and then for some teams that tiebreaker helped. I think the tiebreaker will actually help Green Bay if they can find a way to win this last game. I think the tiebreaker, the fact that they have a tiebreaker, will help get them in and not take them out of the playoffs. So, but I think the 17-game schedule was better than the 16-game schedule, and I think the 18-game schedule, when and if that happens, which money related, I'm sure we're not talking about player safety here. We're talking about money. That will happen. And then we'll go back to where it was before, where we have all these teams stacked up at 9-9 and what have you. So I think the odd number of games actually helped how the schedule played out. The seedings.
Yeah, and then we had that one year where we had an odd number of teams. Remember when Cleveland was all by itself, waiting for there was a 31st team, and oh my gosh, try to figure out the scheduling for that. All right, Brian, we're finally going to get to you. What are your final thoughts here on Week 17?
It's been a heck of a ride, right? We got one more week. I mean, everything's just about wrapped up. Like Joyce said, we got the 3 games left, but is it going to be 18 games and 2 buys? Is that what we're looking at? Probably, most likely going forward. So
at some point, yes.
Yeah.
18 games and 2 buys, yeah.
Maybe the lack of drama for the last week of the season, only having 3 games that really mean anything. Maybe the NFL is going to say, no, we can't have that. And they immediately try to activate this next game. But, kudos to the teams that have made it here. The teams have stayed healthy, and a lot of good football that we got. We're just getting started. Obviously, the playoffs. Once that comes up, it's gonna. That's where the real football begins. But a lot of teams showing off a lot of young talent and building for the future. And then you got a lot of teams that excited for a chance to win a championship this year. I think this is one of the most wide open years we've had in a while. I think realistically, there's about 8 teams that have a real chance at hoisting the Lombardi when it's all said and done mid-February.
Well, the ability to get there is going to start in 2 weeks. We got one more regular season game to go, Week 18. We appreciate you joining us for this show, but you can also be a part of next week's wrap-up show, same time, and we start right at the 4th quarter of the Monday night game, and we appreciate you being a part of it. So for Joey Clinkscales, for Brian LeBel, I'm Harper LeBel saying thank you for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate you being a part of 100 Yards of Football. This has been the Week 17 wrap-up show. Thank you for being with us. Come back again next week, and also watch the next week's prep show that we're going to have. We'll have a preview for Week 18, and that is tomorrow evening. We will start at 8 o'clock. So we appreciate you being a part of it. Have